everybody, welcome back to my workshop and welcome back to my garage. In today's video we're going to go over getting the guitar to this point right here. As you can see, I've got the neck glued on, I've got my bridge posts installed, I've got holes drilled for my tuners. I've also went ahead and drilled the holes for my strap locks. The only drilling I still got left to do on the body is I need to drill out jack location, but I've got to actually get the jack cover for that. I don't have one on hand right now. And then when I get the pickups made, drill the mounting holes for the P90s. I did do a mock-up. I put a pre-cut nut on that wasn't cut to the right depth, but it was good enough for the purposes that I needed. I installed the bridge with the nut and a couple strings. I installed my high E and my low E, and just to check to make sure that everything was right and true the way it was supposed to be. Everything looks good with that. I actually did have to raise the bridge a little bit to start to get the right action because it was low, so that's good. So that means my neck break angle and everything is good. So let's get rolling on the video to get us up to the point where we're at right now. All right, so we've got our bridge locations drilled in. What we need to do now is we need to drill a couple holes. One, I'm going to drill a hole from this bridge post right here into the control cavity, and that's going to be for the ground. Then I'm going to also drill a hole from the pickup cavity into that, and that's going to be for the pickup wires to go through. And then I'm also going to drill a hole from the front to the next pickup cavity. That way the front pickup can be wired through and then go through the hole. So I'm going to go ahead and get these holes drilled, and then we're also going to drill the hole for our jack mount. Once we get all that done, this thing's going to be ready to glue together. So that's all our holes drilled. So what we're getting ready to do right now is go ahead and get our control cavity cover, access cover, routed out. So we're going to go ahead and get this on the router, get it routed out, and then I'll get it thickness down to the proper thickness, because right now it's about probably a 1/16 of an inch too thick, but I can throw that on the belt sander or on my drum sander and get it sanded down in a matter of seconds. So let's go ahead and get this routed out. All right, got that routed down. What we'll do now is go ahead and get it pulled off the template and get it on the thicknesser and get it thickness down to the right thickness. So I need to take about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little bit more, off this control cavity cover. So what I'm going to do is I've got it super glued masking tape down to this board. That way it goes through my drum sander easier. I'm going to go ahead and feed this through a few times. I've got the depth already marked out on my depth gauge, so I'll be checking this with each pass and getting this sanded down to the right height. All right, got this sanded down to the correct depth height now. Now I can go ahead and fit it to the guitar, and then what we'll do is that way I can have it in place when I go to do my sanding, because right now that's what we're up to next on the body, is to start doing the preliminary sanding before we glue the neck and the body together. All right, so what I've done is I just went on with the orbital sander just to kind of speed things up a little bit for the top and the back on the flat surfaces. I went ahead and sanded those to 220, and then I'm going to just move on to sanding by hand. I'm going to get the body sanded to where I want it to be, pretty close, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue the neck in. But I want to get as much sanding done on the body as possible before I do that. And then you can see the fitment for the control cavity on the back there. Fits in really nice. It's nice and flush with the body, so that's going to be quite good. It is time to start turning this into what resembles more of a guitar. So for the body, most of the work's done on here already. I've got my control holes drilled. I've got the cavity routed out, including the shelf. I've got my bridge posts in with my ground wire anchored down to the bridge post, so that's good there. I've got my channels drilled between the pickup cavities to feed the wiring through from the front to the back. And then I've also got the control route, or I've got the access drilled from the bridge humbucker into the control cavity. The body has been sanded to 220. What I'll do is after I get the neck glued in, this area is going to get a lot of reshaping, as well as the heel front and back for access. I do have that little bit of relief carve across the top. That's looking really nice. And I've got the belly carve as well. For the neck, again, this is all sanded down to 220. The neck shape is really nice, feels real comfortable in your hands. I did have that little bump here on my volute that I could feel, but I've went ahead and sanded that out. Again, this area here on the neck is going to get some contouring and everything when it's in the body. So that little bit of a gap right there you're not going to see because that's going to be all smoothed in. Just remember, I did have to do a 1/32 shim on the bottom of this to raise it up just a little bit to allow access to the bridge. One thing I did do, and I'm not 100% if I'm going to like this or not, I think I am because initially I can feel it and it feels really nice. What I was doing is I was doing a small countersink on the holes to where when I do it with the lacquer it doesn't build up on those spots. And when I did the bridge location, I just didn't like the way it looked. It stood out because the bridge posts were smooth going down in. So what I've done is I just took and dimpled it a little bit, put some sandpaper on my finger and did that, and it's got a nice smooth dip down into there now. I think it looks really good. I'm interested to see what it looks like once it's painted and that shows through. But it's time to make this thing into a guitar and get this neck glued on. So I've done a lot of on and off with the neck. I know how it fits in there. I've checked it. I've checked the scale length multiple times. I've put the neck in, checked it for squareness and center line down the body. The neck does not move from side to side. It's a nice firm neck pocket. It's not overly tight, as you're going to see, because what I do is when I drop it in, I actually drop it in a little bit behind and then slide it forward. So what I've done, I don't want that sliding back when I put clamps on it. So what I've got is I've just got a little bit of space, a little spacer here that's going to go in there between the neck and fill that pickup cavity. You can see how that's going to go in there. You can see it right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to prevent the neck from sliding back. And it's not going to slide forward because it's snug as it goes forward. But with this neck fit, and you can see here, like I said, this little bit of an area here, you can see kind of a gap. That's all going to get blended in. So that's going to be just a nice smooth blend right there. And the same with this little bit right here. As I sand this out, that's going to feather out and do to what it's supposed and go to what it's supposed to be and feather, and it's going to look a lot nicer than what it does right now. So I've got my clamp set up. It's just time to get some glue in there and get this thing glued together. I'm going to make sure I get a good surface. Don't need a lot, you don't need a lot. You don't want to have a ton of glue in there. Just have a bunch of squeeze out for no reason. But you want enough to cover the surface. And then I've got a wet rag standing by to clean up any of the squeeze out that I get. This little brush here is really nice. You got it at Lowe's. It's for doing wood glue. It's silicone bristles, so you can let the glue, if you want, you can let the glue dry on it and just pop it right off once it's dry. It works really well. Like I said, we'll get the neck dropped in here. Kind of move it back and forth just a little bit, just to get all that glue sitting on there. Make sure we have a good glue surface. Want to have a little bit of support on the back there. Got me a good clamping call here. Install this one here. That way it gets pressure on the back. Now let's just get this glue cleaned up. The squeeze out. There we go. It's looking good. So you can see I got good squeeze out there. Good squeeze out in the front. Like I said, that's going to get tapered down a little bit. Good squeeze out there on this side as well. So now I'm just going to let this sit for 24 hours. I know it says you only have to keep it in clamps for an hour or so, 30 minutes. I like a little bit longer, just the way I like to do it. We're at the point of no return now. So hopefully, well, not hopefully, I know it's going to be perfect because I've measured it about 12 times. so I know it's going to be right where I need it to be. But yeah, this is always the stage I like. Once it gets to this point, you know, at that point it's starting to turn into a guitar. What I'm going to do after I pull this out of the clamps is I'm going to go ahead and do a mock-up build on it. I'm going to go ahead and put the bridge on. I'm going to go ahead and put the tuners in. Go ahead and put the jack switch jack, or the input jack in. Get all my holes drilled. That way I know when after I get this thing painted and clear coated, I know I'm not going to be messing around with the drill around the guitar. Pulled this out of the clamps already. I left it clamped up for 24 hours, but super nice joint area here. This is all going to sand out, of course, once I go into sanding here. The same with this heel area. This is going to be contoured down as well, to where it's going to be a nice comfortable grip right there. What we're going to get ready to do right now is we're just going to do a small mock-up on it. Put the bridge on, put the tuners in with the pre-cut nut in there for spacing, just to make sure that all the string height and everything's going to be okay. Once I get the tuners on, I'll also go ahead and drill the little mount holes on those as well to install the screws. All right, just a couple things about the hardware I'm using. The bridge, I'm using the Tone Pros wraparound bridge. And for the tuners, I'm using the Godot locking tuners. 3 on each side, but locking tuners for this. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and get the bridge installed, get the tuners installed. I've got just a pre-cut nut that I'm going to go ahead and put on here to just make sure that all the bridge height and everything is going to be the height that I want it to. As seen in the previous videos, I measured the bridge height several times to make sure I had the neck break angle right, and also to make sure that I had everything, that all the spacing was going to be correct. And as you remember, I put, as shown in the earlier video, I did put a 1/32 shim underneath the neck before I glued it in. I'm just running these posts down to the bottom because that's where that'll be my starting point. Just going to run these down, snug them down. I'm not over tightening or anything like this point because I want to make sure I get them all straight. All right, so this is going to be perfect, I think. As you can see, I've got my 2 strings installed, my high E and my low E. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to go ahead and check my bridge height. Actually, I can see right now that it's as low as it's going to go. It needs to come up just a touch. I can tell that just because of the way the strings are. So, because they're riding right on the frets right now. Okay, I'm going to bring this in here and see if you can see it. But this is with the bridge raised just a touch, and that is some super low action right there. Now granted, this is without a setup, and this is without any real string tension on it, but that tells me that my bridge height is at the right place because I'm not bottomed out, and I'm literally right on the fret with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and line up my tuners and look at drilling my mount holes back here on the back side of the tuners. That way all the holes are drilled before I start any sanding and final prep on this. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this video. As you can see, we're getting really close to starting the finishing process on the guitar. In the next video, what I'm going to do, it will cover doing the final contours on the neck heel, making sure all of that's right. So as I mentioned in a prior video, this guitar is going to be painted with nitrocellulose lacquer, and it's going to be TV yellow. So I do want to make sure that I have a very good coat of grain fill on it. I don't want any of the grain showing through. So I'm going to be doing some grain fill. I'm going to work on the final sanding. That's going to be pretty boring to watch. I may show a couple clips of it in the next video, but that's going to be about it. The main one's going to be concentrating on getting the neck heel contoured correctly. So if you like what I'm doing, please click like, click subscribe, leave a comment below. I try and answer all the comments, and I do read every single one. So, I look forward to seeing what people think of the build going forward. And until next time, stay safe and take care.